All right. Hi, everybody. It's 11 o'clock here west of Chicago. I see we have people from all over, though. That's so exciting. My name is Tracy Heilers. I'm founder and executive director of Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. We've been around about 2 years now, a 501c3 nonprofit. So I know some people are new and don't know about us yet, or maybe aren't subscribed to our newsletter. So that's why I was going to give a little spiel here before we start. But we support school communities. So right now we're focusing on educators, but as we grow, we hope to support students and teachers and parents. So this is a little bit of a first step, because what we do a lot is we connect people with great organizations like Stress Teens. So this is an all-school program. So this is such a perfect fit for COSM. That's our little acronym there. And so we support school communities in a variety of ways. So basically, it comes down to mentoring, training, resources. We connect educators with those. We connect them with organizations, with each other, all that good stuff. But today I wanted to have an informational meeting with Gina Beagle and Stacy Cooper of Stress Teens, because, well, this is it was a very personal inspiration for me, this one. My great ideas aren't always this personal, but my husband, Gary, is a department chair of PE and health at Glenbard North High School in Carroll Stream, Illinois. And we all know what's going on. This spring, he was having remote learning like everybody else. PE, obviously, is harder than other subjects to do e-learning. So he was trying to be creative. I was getting him some mindfulness lesson plans, just kind of pulling things here and there to try to help him bring some SEL into his remote learning. But in him talking with other PE department chairs in the Chicagoland area, they would get together every week or so to just collaborate together and help each other. They really saw this, they're trying to see the silver linings of the situation and saw it as a great opportunity to bring SEL into these social emotional learning into their high school communities, which in general, as you know, you work with teens, middle school or high school, there's a gap with SEL there. Like, it's the way the day is structured, going from teacher to teacher, it's like schools don't want to give up, say, like a homeroom every week to learn these skills. That's a really hard sell to board members, school board members and such. But this is a great way to start bringing SEL in during remote learning. And then hopefully once things go back to normal and we're all in school, that we can keep this momentum going and keep the SEL in schools going. So PE is I feel a great department, PE and health, to bring it into a school if there's no other, say, options, because we're already working on physical wellness, and even some PE departments are changing their names to wellness departments, which I think is a really cool transition. Somewhat similar to the transition we made 20 to 30 years ago from being more of a sports-based, PE, to switching to more fitness-based and fitness for life. So this is just a perfect way to bring in the mental training, mental health, combining the two into whole health. So how we're going to do it today, let me see here. Oh, awesome. We have a few more people in. We are going to, first, I want to introduce and have Gina and Stacy introduce themselves, and then we'll have Gina lead us in a mindfulness practice, and then we'll have them talk a little bit more about the content of their course. Then I kind of want to go over a scenario of how my husband's using it in PE. So just to talk you through how he's going to use Schoology and how he's going to do the assignments with his students. And then we'll hear from you to see if you have ideas of other ways. Maybe you're a health teacher, maybe you're an avid teacher, maybe you're a school counselor, other ways that you are thinking of using it for your school, and we can kind of bounce ideas off each other and help you use this this curriculum in a way very specific to your needs. And if you don't have any ideas, we have a few ideas more to share regarding different uses of this as well. So, and then we'll have definitely Q&A at the end if we have time. We're going to try to keep it to an hour. But if people want to share other ways at the end that they're bringing SEL into their classes, we'd love to hear from that. And I'm able to stay on longer, and we'll record this so that other teachers can learn from us, because again, COSM is all about mentoring each other. But yes, so I'm going to stop talking here, and I want to maybe have you both introduce yourselves, and Gina, you can go first, but kind of lean it towards, so the reason I chose stressed teens to help Gary with the situation that he was in, like he wanted a curriculum, a very specific curriculum. He wanted to be using it, having 2 lessons a week, and also a mindful movement lesson, yoga, some mindful movement, some strengthening poses. So that was his criteria for us. But I know there's a lot of things out there, and I've worked part-time at his high school. I've seen the kids roll their eyes at some of the SEL stuff they've had to do with their teachers. And so Gina was the first person that popped to my mind when I realized that our COSM wouldn't necessarily be able to make the timeline we needed to do our own necessarily curriculum. And so kind of, Gina and Stacy, talk about your experience you've had with working with teens over the last few years. Because I think that's a really vital reason why I think this is such a great curriculum, that it's you two doing it.
Hi, I'm Gina Beagle. I'm the founder of Stress Teens. And what I came up with is I took a program called MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction for adults, created by John Kabat-Zinn in 1979. And I adapted his adult program for teens, calling it MBSRT. And I did that in 2004, actually before most anyone was bringing mindfulness to youth or to education at all. A lot of people thought I was a little optimistic in doing so, and thought that it might not work. And that made me want to do it even more. So I was doing work at a large HMO in California in an outpatient psychiatry facility for youth. And I brought this in as a group, and I taught it for 8 years there. And I've been bringing it at the same time, was also bringing it into educational settings and community-based settings and doing research on it. And so there's a lot of research on my website on stressteens.com that you can download that shows the efficacy of this work. What this is about is taking MBSRT. What I did with that is it's technically and formally an 8-week program. Well, over the years, I have worked really hard to making it so that, let's say in a classroom setting, you only had 10 minutes or 15 minutes, that basically the MBSRT curriculum is a whole set of interventions. So you could piecemeal them out and doing one at a time, or you could be doing a whole classroom with that program. So I teach both clinical and non-clinical professionals, educators, therapists, occupational therapists, etc. Or also just mindfulness instructors or yoga instructors. And I've been teaching them a formal program. And what was so wonderful with Tracy is that, well, aside from the fact that I adore her and I love the grassroots of her organization, unfortunately, not everyone who teaches mindfulness is mindful themselves. And when I met Tracy and what she was interested in doing and the way she was interested in bringing it to people, it reminded me of myself when I created the Hearts and Minds conference through UC San Diego many years ago. And I hope, and I know Tracy won't change. And so I love that about her. I mean, I'm sure she'll change in general, but not in terms of her heart and why she's doing what she's doing. And I adore her for that and what her aspirations and what she's going to be doing in the next years. I just know it's gonna be amazing. But back to this is that I had all these images in my mind, all the times I created all these new interventions for the last, 16 years. I had these like, oh, this would be cool if it looked like this on a drawing. And a few years ago, I met an artist in high school. Yep, in high school, her name is Brianna Chambers. And I had her do some work for me. And I realized that she could draw the things that I was thinking. Like I could tell her something and she would magically be able to do what I was wanting, and made it look the way I had it in my mind. And so I was able to publish this year, earlier on in this year, this book, Taking the Good. And it is all drawn like these, hold on, every activity is drawn. And so there's a little write-up in each activity, and then there's the activity itself. So it's basically taking that content of that 8 sessions that's clinically and based, actually the SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, actually found my work, MBSRT, to be the only adolescent evidence-based mindfulness program. And so it supports that. So there's a lot of support if you need like research support behind it. And so what I did was take the program, like interventions, and turned it into this book. And I had been wanting to really offer this book in some sort of training, whether it was in a group, online learning. And then when Tracy talked to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect, because I can take the activities in this book and make them into these short lessons where I offer a video, I talk through like an activity, and then they get the activity. And I'm so happy that my publisher was gracious for me to use this art at no cost to people, additional cost to people, because they could have, you know, been difficult with regard to the copyright. But because of the situation that we're all dealing with right now, they really know the importance of getting this content to youth. So I said a little more than maybe I was planning to say, but that's okay.
Great, thanks, Gina. Go ahead, Stacy.
Hi, my name's Stacy Cooper, and I'm going to start by giving a little bit of background as to how Gina and I came together. So I have my doctorate in clinical psychology, and I have been working with teens or with youth privately and publicly for many, many years. When I was going through my master's and my doctorate, I worked in middle schools, high schools, community colleges, a Job Corps center, and Duke University, just in different training positions. And I always really enjoyed working with youth and young adults, and have always gravitated towards a strengths-based approach. I studied positive psychology and mindfulness, and always felt like the mind-body connection was very important for the work I was doing, and something that I wish I had access to when I was younger. So after all of this, I ended up developing my own private practice, just working independently with teens and young adults in my community as a transition and life coach. I also became a Pilates instructor. I'm an overachiever, so I did 2 separate Pilates certifications, a TRX certification, a bar certification, all these certifications. But through all of that, I met Gina. I went through her MBSRT training program to learn some more about mindfulness and get certified in an approach that had a lot of science behind it. And so I could then go out and implement it with my individual clients and also bring it to schools in my community. So after I went through her certification program, I received a couple contracts to start teaching her mindfulness-based stress reduction for teens program at a community center with middle school students, and then a middle school and a high school. So I started teaching her program in a couple different settings, and I had really aligned with her just listening to her throughout the training. So I reached out to her and asked for her to consult with me on helping me with making sure I was doing a good job implementing her program and modifying it, since one of the schools wanted it to be a 6-week instead of an 8-week. One of them needed it to be an hour each session. So through that process of consulting with her, we ended up becoming really dear friends. And it was really fun to talk through with her how I was, adapting the program in different school settings, and we started collaborating, and it was really fun. And then through that process, she asked me to co-author a book with her. We wrote a book together using mindfulness for teens who self-harm. And then we started actually teaching the MBSRT program in a 4-week format online, pre all of this COVID. And we taught a couple of those together. So have adapted it to the 4-week online format together. And then we had one of those courses during the beginning of this whole pandemic. And then we've taught several through the pandemic together. And this opportunity in particular is very, very important to me, because it's just this really nice, I was sharing with them before we started, it's a really cool integration for me of all of my training and background, like in fitness and mindful movement, and mindfulness, and then my background in psychology and all the work I do privately in the community with teens. This is just such a cool way to be able to reach a much larger audience at a really, really, really important time when there's so much uncertainty. And I just think there's so much potential with this program and what we're doing. I feel this huge responsibility to make sure we're delivering really, really good content. But also Gina and I can be kind of goofy. I think we're both teens at heart. So I'm hoping that the content will be relatable to them. And, even if they laugh at us, but they're enjoying it, that's totally fine with me. That's what happens in our online classes a lot. So yeah, I'm really, really, really grateful to be here.
Awesome.
Wait, really quick, one thing I should say is I'll be teaching the 32 lessons, the main mindfulness content lessons, and Stacy is teaching this additional 16 mindful movement lessons. And so she'll be taking my lessons and that flow and creating her mindful movement to go with 2 of each of my 32 lessons. And because she knows the program so well, my content so well, and the book so well, because we've been using the Take in the Good for the 4-week teen group, that she's really skilled and able to adapt that for movement, which is wonderful because it gets us not just in our headspace, but in our physical space too.
Awesome. And maybe Gina, I want you to go a little bit more into the content, but let's start, because I haven't even done a mindfulness practice today, except for—
I was just going to say, I'm setting up my phone so I can record a practice for us.
Awesome.
So if you can minimize any distractions that you can. So if you're holding anything in your hands, if you can silence your devices, or at least if you can't minimize all your distractions, just noticing them. We're going to do a brief sense awareness practice together. Because if you are paying attention to any of your senses at any moment, you are actually being mindful because you're paying attention to something as it's unfolding. And I find for all of us, paying attention to our senses can be pretty accessible, and for young people. So I'm going to go ahead and strike a bowl and use this as an opportunity to really just notice the sound that you hear and arrive at the soundscape. If you feel comfortable doing so, gently closing your eyes. And if you don't want to close your eyes, just fix your gaze on something that isn't moving. And instead of feeling like you have to sit in some uncomfortable position because you have to do so in mindfulness practice, that isn't true. You can sit in a comfortable but dignified position at the same time. So get into a comfortable seated position and just arrive at this moment and in your space. Sometimes people can be uncomfortable with silence. And the thing is actually never really silent. There's always these ambient noises, or there'll be sounds that rise and fall and space between those sounds. So I invite you to welcome yourself to the soundscape of the room you're in right now. Noticing the expansion of sounds as they shift and change. Now bringing your attention more to your body and welcoming yourself to this moment. Noticing the position of where you're sitting, the points of contact your body has with what you're sitting on. Might even scan your body, noticing the feet and legs, Noticing the points of contact your body has, your toes, what they're touching. And as you scan your body from the tips of the toes to the top of the head, just notice what's here, not needing to change anything. It's just an invitation to notice, like a detective. You might notice something new, something familiar. Whatever it is, just welcome it with openness and curiosity, not needing to change it or do anything with it. You can release into whatever's here and whatever that looks like for you. For me, I often focus on my shoulders, and I notice that's a spot where a lot of people hold tension or tightness. So I imagine just literally letting your shoulders release, letting them go, and then following your attention down to your tips of your fingers. And if you can, turning your hands so that the palms are facing upward toward the ceiling. Our hands have a lot of sensations here. There's a lot of feeling in the nerves in our hands. Take the moment to just notice the air that's on or around your fingers and touching the fleshy palms. Almost imagine the air that's on your hands, on your palms, almost like clouds, like you can almost touch it as if they're puffy clouds. And without having to move your hands, just imagine pushing that air up to the ceiling, up to the sky almost, and widening your fingers. So if they're closed, opening them up so that the air is really between your fingers and on your hands. What's important is that our hands and these sensations here are always with us if we need to turn to something that's constant with us. Another thing people might turn toward is the breath, which when you first notice the breath can be actually uncomfortable because it does shift and change. But if you can move past that, you can actually find the normal flow and cadence of your breathing. But for the sake of this practice, on the next in-breath, follow that breath down into the belly and just notice the belly rise. On the out-breath, actually it's rise on the in-breath and gently fall and release on the out-breath. Bringing air in, watching the belly expand, the lungs and ribs expand, and then release on the out-breath. And the last area, just noticing the face, noticing your face, noticing if you're holding any sort of facial expression. Sometimes we do this. And a mindfulness practice is for no one but you. And so you don't need to be holding any facial expression or any tension or tightness here. Just releasing the jaw, the mouth, the teeth. A letting go of sorts. Release into whatever's here. Now that we've paid attention to the soundscape, to noticing our body, to checking in with our experience right now, and to our hands and our face, just noticing how you feel right now. And even with just a short period of time, perhaps notice any change from before to now. And that mindfulness practice doesn't have to be a really long practice. It's taking the time for yourself to just check in with your moment-to-moment experience as it is right now. And I'm going to go ahead and strike this bowl and use this sound as an offering to close this practice this morning. If your eyes are closed, to gently let light come back into your eyes and come back to the room and to this moment.
Gina? I feel good. So next, I thought would be nice, maybe you can do a screen share from your website and just walk us through the lessons and why you picked the progressions. I know some teachers, when they just get started bringing mindfulness to their classrooms, it's kind of, they might use an app and it's kind of random what they end up sharing with their students. This is why I think having a program like this is another reason why it's so great. So just go ahead, and doesn't have about 5 minutes we can share on the content. And then Stacy can do this, talk a little bit about her content as well.
So just really quick, one thing I'd love to say about this content is because it is research-based, that's definitely helpful in bringing this into a school. And secondly, when you introduce mindfulness, you want to be thoughtful about really almost like a sequence. You want to build on practice. You want to start with shorter mindfulness practices and go up to longer practices. You want to talk about a foundation and a base for mindfulness and its utility. Something that is really important to me, and why my book is called Take in the Good, is that when we're mindful, more aware of our thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations in the present moment, and more aware of our senses, where do we put that newfound attention? Do we attend to things that support us and fill us up and nourish us? Or do we attend to things that drain and deplete us? And because of our natural tendency, that negative selection bias as a protection, a lot of times we also tend to attend to negative things, like the dislike that someone posted or the grade that we got that we didn't want. But we don't necessarily notice the whole of the things that are good. And so just as easily when we're mindful, we can attend to things that aren't healthy for us or aren't helpful. And so in addition to the base of this program being about mindfulness and learning what it is, it's then what do you do next? What are the things you can do to really engage in self-care and the social and emotional learning competencies? You know, paying attention to relationships and self-awareness, and it's working on management of one's experience, their emotions, their thoughts, making responsible decision making. Mindfulness puts a space between a stimulus and allows for a response instead of an automatic reaction. And so what I do is take the content of my traditional 8-week format and basically pick the best of. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my website with you. So when you go to Stress Teens and you go to online learning, the first thing is all school program. And that's this. And so if you want to learn a little bit about each of those sets of lessons, you can watch the videos here, but we're talking it through, so I don't think you need to do so. There's a lot of specifics underneath this. And I think the most important thing is the schedule and lesson details. And basically it talks you through all the lessons and how they are set up, and as well gives you an actual lesson plan already set up. And what I've put here is an actual lesson. So the first thing is each of the 32, it comes with a 20-minute video lesson. That's a mindfulness-centered lesson. And it has a PowerPoint, and I talk you through the particular lesson. And then there is a downloadable activity activities from the Take in the Good book. So for example, in this first lesson, there is the handout on what mindfulness is, a practice on sense awareness, and then applying the senses to mindful eating. And so for this particular lesson, lesson 1, there's 3 pages. And then I've added an audio practice that they can download. All of these are downloadable. And what I want to point out is not only is it an all school program, it's an all community program. Teens and youth are not just in isolation. They're not just an identified person. There are other people in their community. So with this program, what I love is for the one price, so whether you are working as the person for an entire school or for one classroom, the entire school gets access to it for an entire school year. And with that, whether you're in class or distant, or your students are going to be distance learning or a partial in between, mix of both, it doesn't matter. Everyone gets it. The parents can watch it, their siblings can watch it, the staff can watch it and use it. They have access to it. So they can download the video themselves. They download the PDF of the document. And what you can do is in a classroom, you can play the video, you can have them work on the activity, the handouts in the classroom, or you can have them do it on their own. But a lot of times the practices can be done for a while too. So it's like between the first lesson and lesson 2, you can have them work on that. And then you can have them play the audio practice on their own or do it within the class. So I'm not even going to try to pronounce your name because I know I'm going to mess it up. asked if it's appropriate for elementary school students. I think the lowest you would want to go with this program is 6th grade. It's not that you can't use it with younger kids, but you would want to adapt some of it. Or you could watch it as a professional yourself and adapt it for younger kids. But my opinion is that this would be for middle school, high school, and even university could use this. I think that covers it. I guess the other thing I want to say though is, you know, when I was recording my first few lessons was deciding, you know, how would a school use this, especially if there's so many different variations right now of how people are going to be opening up their schools or not. And I was even saying in my videos, you can pause the video if you want to expand on it. So it's not just 20 minutes, it could be longer because you can have conversation around this. So it can be, okay, 20-minute video, I got, you know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes for them to do their on your own practices assignment in class or at home. And then you can play the audio practice. But there's a lot of flexibility around that because then you could have them do the in-class assignment and then talk about it as a classroom, or you can have them do the in-class assignment and then add on some questions that you want them to think about. And if you add on the movement lesson, you'll see the reflection journal options that Stacy's going to include with her practice, which really gives a lot of depth to this program, but in short, easily accessible snippets. And I hope that clarifies my part of the program. What do you think, Tracy?
Yes.
Okay. And I can share the screen for Stacy when she's ready too.
Go ahead, Stacy. Do you want to go next?
Sure. So my portion of the program is there will be 16 sessions. So as Gina has 32 and there are 2 per week, there will be 1 session for my mindful movement program that complements and accompanies hers. So 1 per week. And each, as well as hers, is 20 minutes-ish long of a movement practice. And then also there will be several reflection or guided journal questions that go along with it. So this is an example from the first one. So the first one is be open and curious. And that's just an example of the reflection questions that are included for the journal assignments that accompany the lesson. And so each mindful movement lesson is going to be focused on linking breath to movement and really being present in the body and incorporating mindful principles into some sort of a very gentle workout. A lot of Pilates will be incorporated because Pilates is a very mindful form of movement, and I have a lot of training in Pilates, and it's all about linking the breath to movement and learning how to control your breath. So breathing is a huge part of it, and it's also a very functional form of movement as well. So it really helps, it will help them to learn how to gain strength, confidence, flexibility, while also improving posture and just having more body awareness. So this not only helps in the sessions, but just with our day-to-day functioning in our lives. I mean, so many of us, and my hope is that these can be used individually with students, or maybe they'll bring it home and use it with their families and they can all do them together, or in the classroom setting. So I tried to make each one of them so they're applicable to all levels and giving different options throughout, and then they can be done individually or in group settings and over again. And then each one will have a different theme. So for example, there's one that has a theme of twist and turn, and the actual physical movements are going to be a lot of twisting and turning. And the idea is about just having a new perspective and always being open and seeing things in different ways. And so the journaling prompts will go along with that theme as well. So that's one example. Another one is Rising Resilient, which goes along in concert with one of Gina's lessons on resiliency. And it's going to be more of a focus on upper arms, upper body strength, and lifting up, and movements that are involving like lifting up and rising up. And then the reflection questions will be centered around that. What are things that bring you down? What are things that lift you up in your life? Just to give a couple examples.
And also just to point out right now that the lessons I just showed you on the website, you can watch an entire full lesson of mine and of Stacy's. They're both the first lesson of the program. And so you have the entire first lesson set on my website right now for both of us.
Awesome. Anything else, Stacy? Or what? I'm trying to figure out why my face isn't popping up on the screen here. Let me pin me. Because I want to. There we go. Well, what I loved about having it be a Pilates focus as well, because I'm a certified yoga teacher, but I incorporate a lot in the classes I do is a lot of Pilates, just because I know how important core strength is, especially just to be sitting up all day long is not, it wears you out. We get into this position, and that causes all kind of chain reaction of unhealthy things happening in the body and the nerves of our back. So I was really glad to see that that was your specialty and that you're including that. And other thing I really love about the mindful movement is it can be done by anybody. So adults who, you know, aren't as active, or even we know a lot of our children aren't very active. So a typical yoga class that I might attend would not, like, this is nothing anybody should be afraid of doing, of having to put themselves in a pretzel. So I think it's just a great introduction to students about what yoga and mindful movement and Pilates are. A lot of these are just, they have a certain thought about what they are. And so what I've watched of Stacy so far, I'm really excited about. And then just commenting on, I love that Gina brought up how it can be used in so many different ways, like pausing, expanding the lesson. I really think also this could be great. Like there's a lot, like I talked to a health teacher who's taken a few beginner trainings on mindfulness, and she's starting to incorporate it in her class, but she's not 100% comfortable leading, maybe talking about positive neuroplasticity and how the brain works. You know, it's new information to her as well. She definitely wants to share it with her class. So she might even just have her school purchase this for a few years until as she gets more comfortable teaching the lessons, then we all know that obviously a live teacher in class who can, you know, see the expressions and get the immediate feedback from their students during the lesson is the best way to have mindfulness be taught. But I think that this program definitely it needs to be used, not just kids go do this is your assignment, and you know, now it's easy for me as a teacher, I don't have to do anything. So I wanted to just kind of give you a scenario of how my husband's department is using it at their school. It's going to be with their PE teachers, but really it could be done with any teacher, like a health teacher or any subject, English teacher, whoever, you know, wants to bring this in during their time for this, just to have the whole school, everyone in their school be able to utilize it. But so how Gary is doing it, he has 10 staff under him. He's at a big high school, and for this year they're going to do it in this way, and then next year, whenever they're in person, then they'll start having the freshmen do the course during their PE and health. But they use Schoology, and then everybody has an iPad. So that's kind of how their school is set up. So for that scenario, how it will work for them, they're wanting to do 2 of Gina's lessons per week and 1 of Stacy's lessons. So the 2 SEL and the 1 mindful movement. And then they're going to have a remote learning day where they have, I think it's 30 minutes with their students on Wednesdays. So he'll give out an assignment for the week. And so on Schoology, he will give the link to Gina's lessons. And when you purchase the program, you'll get a link and a password. And when I'm done, you can tell me if things have changed. So he'll put that in Schoology and say, this week your assignment is lesson 1 and 2, and here's the link and password, as well as mindful movement, lesson 1. Here's the link and password. And then he will say so each teacher might do this differently, but they want to get, they want to somehow be able to record that the students are completing a lesson, so that they can, for completing a lesson, that's how they're going to grade. So with Schoology, and they have iPads, so they're going to use the Notability app, and the kids will just download, they'll have, when they go to that website, they'll watch the video, the 20-minute video, they'll listen to the 5 to 10 minute mindfulness practice, and then they'll do the assignment. So they'll click the PDF, they'll I don't know if it's called upload, whatever, to their iPad Notability app, and then they can just write the little answers right on there. And then they submit it. It's an easy way. They just submit it to Schoology, and then the teacher sees that they've done the assignment.
Really quick, Tracy, too, though, if you don't mind. So if someone doesn't have iPads, they can download it and print it out as well. And then a person, if hopefully they have a printer, and then they could even take a picture of it. And I actually just found a way on your phone actually to scan things as well. If a picture isn't good enough, there's lots of options right now. But if you didn't have, an iPad, you can download it, print it the old school way, and handwrite your answers too on those handouts. So, and they're 8.5 by 11, the size. So they're for a full page.
Yes. And also, I know a lot of schools use Google Classroom. So it could even be something like that assignment that we just saw on the census. It would be easy for the teacher to create, they just submit the assignment on Google Doc, where they would type in, what they noticed about each sense, and then they could type in the days of the week and their likes and dislikes with the foods right into a Google Doc easily. All these assignments could easily be done that way. I know, I think one of the health teacher, they would just have them use a notebook, like, the notebooks you get for school, and it could be something that they just write in there. And then maybe if you just, I know they're planning on just seeing the students one time a week for 70 minutes at my teacher's school, or at Gary's school, which I'm guessing will change, but like they could bring their assignment that once a week and basically just show, a quick show that I've done the assignment.
Well, also one other thing I was going to say is the school could print them out for them too, if they needed to. So It's not like it has to be one way. It's not a one size fits approach.
Yes. And if anybody has any other ideas, let us know. But
there's a couple of questions in the chat area, Tracy.
Okay. Yeah, let's look at that. What levels is Gary working with this year? Oh, okay. So my husband is a high school PE department chair. He has 10 staff. And so he's working with, he's going to have, so freshmen through seniors, every student is going to be taking this whole course, and they're going to do it within the first semester. So they're doing 2 SEL lessons and 1 mindful movement each week. So I know some other teachers, PE teachers and other teachers I've talked to, that they're going to do it 1 lesson per week, and then it lasts pretty much the whole school year. So that might make more sense for a lot of students. And if you do it that way, it could easily be, once you finish the 16 mindful movement lessons, like it's very easy to repeat that.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like with us, mindfulness and how we are and who we are changes day to day. And so doing the same activity again, you're just a different person doing it, and you have more experience with it. And so being able to work on the sense practice again is not I can only do this once. It's something that you can do repeatedly. And also you're different, and your experience with it will be different because you're different in that point of time. So being able to even do the 2 lessons of the SEL and 1 of the mindful movement, and then repeating it in the second semester would be completely an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And then for accountability, the teachers aren't going to know unless they're playing it in class, or if you're live remote with the students, you can play the video and everybody's watching it at the same time. But even then, you don't, unless you don't know if they're listening. But the reflection assignment is how he's keeping them accountable and showing that they've done the assignment. And he's also going to use their Wednesday time together, their 30 minutes. It's going to be an SEL time. So they're not only just doing the assignments, but they are reflecting together on them. So they'll use either the reflection assignments, either the one that goes with the mindful movement or SEL, and have the kids discuss that and have a conversation, and give, the teacher can give their responses, to start it off of what they found a new like or dislike was when they were eating. Another way to get more processing of the information, the one day they're together in class for 70 minutes, a lot of PE is just going to be, walking and yoga on those days so we can stay socially distanced, but it could be a walk and talk that they do together with a partner where they talk about those reflection questions of how they answered them and such. That could be a great way to start off their time together, in-person time together. Can you use Edpuzzle with the videos? Yeah, has anybody else used Edpuzzle? I'm not familiar with that.
I just looked it up because I didn't know what it was, and it looks pretty cool. And I would say yes, but I don't know for sure the compatibility. But I think you can use the videos whatever way you're used to and whatever way you would like to. And just as a reminder, a school has to get just one, almost like one package for this. It's not that each class needs to order this. So it's for the entire school too, just as a reminder.
Right. And then regarding the videos, you're recording them and putting them on Vimeo. And then you're going to have on that password protected web page, is it going to be the videos embedded on that page? So they just click and they'll see it. And
yeah. And if you want it, yeah, if you want to download it and use it though in a different way, like put it, I think I'm sorry, I'm learning the technology behind this as well. The videos will be hosted on the website. So you would just click them and watch them on the website. So I'm not sure if
I know you can set the settings to make it downloadable or not, but I thought since it was a full access that wasn't really going to be an option for the videos.
Yeah, so that might make the Edpuzzle a little challenging. You're right. And the password will just be one password per program. So one password for the 32 and one password for the 16. So it's not like there's a password for every lesson either.
Oh, Edpuzzle allows you to make questions in the middle of the videos and allows students to click on the different websites. Okay. I don't think you'd really have to do that in this situation.
There aren't different websites. It's just one website. It's all the content's contained therein. And you really would learn how to do the handouts that are for the lesson by watching the lesson. And so, yes, some of the handouts are self-explanatory, but really to get the full assignment and how you do it, you have to watch the lesson.
Yeah. And then just to share another use that I've heard people, there's a school counselor who is proposing that not necessarily doing it with a certain department because, and I know some schools do Mindful Mondays and such like this, but it could be something that you start the week with a special homeroom that, and you invite the parents to do it as well, that it could be done by the whole school in a special homeroom once a week. And then it would be great to have that continue after remote learning once we're back in person to have, if they see how when they see how beneficial this is for the students and everybody, that it could be something that opens up time, in the future to create that special homeroom once a week where the teacher just clicks the video, you're watching it in class together, and instead of necessarily handwriting or journaling the answers, or you could do a little bit of that, and then the students share and have a discussion right there in class and do the mindfulness practice together in class in person. That would be the ultimate use of it, I believe. Any other questions? And feel free to just talk. We don't have to type it in. We want to make this informal. We've got about 12 minutes left, and we can keep doing Q&A, or if you have, or if an idea is coming to you for another use of it in your unique situation, or if you want to share some other SEL ideas or things you've come upon that could help the group and mentor the group and sharing some other things that you're thinking about doing, we'd love to hear them in our time together. Who's going to be brave and share? Any other questions?
I've got a quick question. My name is Val Walters. I'm with the Ryan Bartell Foundation, and we are a suicide prevention organization. And help me understand, because a lot of times in our programming, we have a range of cognitive abilities in our classes or in our programs. So do you have anything that we can do to, some of our students are nonverbal, some of our participants are, aren't really great with writing. So do you have any kind of alternatives for those types of students that we can include?
Alternatives in what ways? I'm sorry, I'm not sure your question.
So are there any like modifications that we can make with the program that you would, be able to help kind of define to help with, different cognitive abilities?
Well, when I created this program and the things you're learning, and when I created it in 2004, I've used it and applied it in so many varying populations. So I've worked with a lot of high risk intensive outpatient program type youth. I've worked with a lot of youth on the spectrum that have taken this content and haven't had problems. And when I say I've really used this program with all different mental health diagnoses and clinical situations, as well as just different adaptations for both disability seen and unseen. And I feel like the program has really been created to accommodate that already. I even have, ways to adapt this in general, like around accommodations that are on my website, because I do think it's really, really important. But I also feel pretty confident that the curriculum as it stands would apply and be able to be used by most youth, really, truly. I also want to say, if you think about it, the way that this program is given is not only is it a video program, so there's something someone can see, there's an audio component, and then the tactile component. And if someone is better skilled at one or the other, I mean, they can tune more to that. And if you're working with a group of people that have an issue with a certain type of sensory problem or ability problem, like ability to even write, I mean, I think on your end, hopefully, however you adapt things to begin with, you could implement that too. I really appreciate your question, Val, because I think it's important. I mean, there isn't a one size fits all approach for every youth. And I know that everyone, teachers or our clinicians are gonna, every kid is different. Every background is different. The trauma that they've experienced in their life, for example, or their difficulties with their physical or mental health, those are all the kids that are in our classes. Those are all the kids that are in our clinics and in front of us. Absolutely. And we're basically expected to be everything for them. And the thing is that I feel with really 99% confidence, I won't say 100, that the program is going to meet your needs. I mean, I am a psychotherapist. That is my trade. And I have, taught this. When I first started teaching this, I worked for Kaiser Permanente, an HMO in Northern California. And I was an intern at the time when I created the MBSRT program. And everyone thought I was a little odd for wanting to bring this program in. And I said, well, they said no when I asked. And I said, well, what if I do it as a research study? And they said yes. And I think they only said yes because they didn't think it would get approved by the IRB, the Institutional Review Board. Then they told me once it got approved that I could only teach it for one time. And I taught it every year, 3 to 4 times a year, ongoing for 8 years. And the only reason it stopped there is because I left. And it was one of the highest attended groups. So I think also a lot, not only the content is the person. And I would say, I don't usually say a lot of I'm not a bragger, right? But I do feel like one of my gifts and talents is that I do have a really strong connection with youth, and I am humble and just me. And like Stacey was saying, we are goofy and, just real. And I think that is going to be as important, if not more important, than what they're learning. And the thing is that it's that relationship that matters. It truly does for all of us. It's really providing youth an opportunity to be connected with in a weird way, because I'm not actually connecting with them myself, but how can I connect with someone as best I can and provide them with a unique experience that they might not be getting elsewhere? And I keep that in mind. Your question was so wonderful, because looking at disabilities and abilities that are both seen and unseen. I mean, if someone can't, is in a wheelchair, you can see that. But like, if someone can't write, you can't necessarily tell. Or if someone came as dealing with a huge trauma at home, like someone has COVID, it's like, how do you meet their needs in that moment as well? And that is not lost on me. I consider that in everything I create, everything I teach, and in who I am. It's very, very important to me. And it also is important to me because I come from a very adverse background. at one point in my life lived in the projects in Peoria, so outside of Illinois, in Illinois. So I come from a very adverse background myself, and in all truth and reality, it's a pretty big miracle that I'm here right now. And so I say that because although I'm white and I have a lot of privilege, I also came from, from a food stamp background where my mom was, that's how I got, clothes for hand-me-downs. And I'm not saying I have to have adversity to be able to do this work, but at the same time, there's a reason why all of us do this work, and that happens to be mine. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That was a very clear and thanks for elaborating.
It means something to me. This means a lot to me. The reason that I'm giving one prize for an entire school is because I want everyone to get it. I want everyone to do it. And if you know me and you know my trainings, I give a ton of resources and a ton of materials because I want people to have access to this. And the thing is, I just want to point out really quick, one thing on my website right now is a page called the COVID-19 Toolbox. And everything on this page is free. So if you go to my website and you click on this toolbox, there's all these free downloads and videos and trainings. So every picture you see is a download, and other activities you can do. There's all these free audio practices. But what I also like is just for fun and cuteness is there's all these pages that you can print and download as a coloring page, for example, and they're, don't be prickly or perfectly imperfect, which really kind of is the background of some of the ideas in my work. But it's just, I just wanted to point out there's a lot of resources here that are of no charge. So even if you don't want to do this program or bring it into your school, please go and check out a lot of the free resources and downloads. And actually on other pages on my website, of every page, there's tons of downloads for you that create little PDF downloads. I'm a kind of a resource junkie, and because that was me, right? In school, I was like, I want everything. You bring up, well, I just really quick, this is funny. I just did a talk on a Wednesday on social isolation, a free webinar. And because I am who I am, I became like all knowing about social isolation. I mean, I understand about social isolation in the sense that we're all going through it, but to understand the research, I started going all into it and wanted to know everything about it. And so I'm definitely a resource hound. I like lots of knowledge and definitely want to share that with those that I'm working with. So thank you.
Hey, I have a question about, do you show a sample of a video? Yes, we shared earlier in the call that that Gina and Stacy have lesson 1 on their website. So you can click and actually see a lesson. Yes, you can click it in and try it out.
Hi, I'm Gina Beagle. I'm a psychotherapist.
You can open it up.
And author, and I will be your teacher.
And then someone actually just emailed me saying is that they're ready to purchase it. Is like, how and when will that happen? So on that same web page, you just click register your school. You choose whether you want to do the 32 lessons, the mindful movement lessons, or both. And it's a simple way to do it. And I know Gina and Stacy are also, I want to do a shout out because they're donating a generous portion back to the Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully to support our mission. So I really want to thank you for that. And they're also, I mean, we know that not all schools are going to be able to afford the $1,500 for both of them this year, and they'll work with any school, or potentially you're an educator and the school's just not interested in this right now, but you're really passionate about it, so you're going to bring it to your one English class or your one social studies class, and that they could work with you to make that happen. I also wanted to bring up, we are recording this. Again, I had said that at the beginning, but then Gina will put it on the Stress Teens website. I'll get it to her later today. So within a few days, they'll have that up if you want to forward that to your admin. And so definitely view that first lesson. Contact Gina at gina@stressteens.com with any other questions. An idea I thought of when Val brought up her question, that I just, Gina and Stacy, since they already do these 4-week groups with teens. I mean, you might find that during the school year that will be something that'd be super cool to do a live session with Gina and Stacy for the students to ask their questions. So, I mean, I feel like when you get this curriculum, that you really are going to have support for whatever comes up during the school year to support your school community, whether that be doing a parent university with Gina and or Stacy or such. So
really quick. So I'm going to point out Linda's here, and Linda has taken my 10-week. Is this your third time you're taking my 10-week training? So anyone who takes my 10-week training can attend a future one at no charge. I get to know people in my trainings. I don't just leave them out there. Why do you think I have a book? I co-wrote a book with Stacy. She was in my 10-week training. So Linda, you're unmuted. I can see that. Do you have something to add?
No, I just think it's an amazing program. So many, it's growing all the time, and Gina has been incredibly generous with her materials, and I could take it for the next 10 courses, because every time I learn something new, and I think that's how it will be for the kids too, the students.
Thanks, Linda. I've gotten to, it was so nice to see you in here today, because it puts me at ease. I see Stacy, I see Tracy, I see friends and people I'm familiar with. And it definitely, although I teach mindfulness, I still get a little stressed out and a little anxious and a little worried. I mean, we are all human. And I think that's also important, is that, we have our gifts and our flaws and our talents, and it's okay to kind of be with who we are and be with, as John Kabat-Zinn says, the full catastrophe, right? It's meeting every moment as it is and being able to tolerate and deal with it. That's a lot of the things too that the kiddos are going to be learning, is how to deal with hard things, like the fact that I can't go hang out with my friends, or the fact that, I don't get to go to prom, or I don't get to do things I used to do. And one thing I'd love to say too is what Stacy and I have been seeing in our classes, how resilient and wonderful teens have been really rising to the occasion of COVID. I mean, I'm not saying it isn't hard, and there are those days where we have the COVID blues, I call them, but I've watched teens do really miraculous things with their time, like engage in mindful baking, a lot of baking, engage in gardening, or learning a new instrument, or a new language, or learning how to write cards to their friends, literal cards. Let me tell you, that's an interesting thing. A lot of teens do not know how to address an envelope. I'm like, do you guys ever get the mail? Like, do you ever bring the mail in? Like, I have to tell you, for the last 15 years, I've been doing a little lesson on how to write an envelope, because they write a letter back to themselves in the training or in the group. And I'm like, wait, how do they not know? And I'm like, when are they asked to actually mail something anymore? And so, some of these old kind of ideas of sending someone a card or becoming new again and fresh again. And anything you want to add to that, Stacy?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the whole resiliency thing. And I think that's something that's been really important for both Gina and I with just coming up with the content for this, is just keeping in mind, like, what are the things that we've observed when we've been working with teens that they're already doing that are demonstrating their resiliency and their strengths, and how can we build on those even more? And I found this really cool quote about bamboo that I actually just decided to incorporate in one of my mindful movement classes. Bamboo is flexible, bending with the wind, but never breaking, capable of adapting to any circumstance. It suggests resilience, meaning that we have the ability to bounce back even from the most difficult times. Your ability to thrive depends, in the end, on your attitude to your life circumstances. Take everything in stride with grace, putting forth energy when it's needed, yet always staying calm inwardly.
Love it.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So what I really wanted to say that I didn't, was that I think the real strength of the program is that it really does teach students how to bring mindfulness into everyday activities, into every situation, every challenge, and really to build strength. Because I've been a meditator for, like, I don't know, 7 years or something, and mindfulness is great, but it's not the whole package. It has to be in the context of your bigger life, your more complete self. So that, I just wanted to add that.
Well, I think piggybacking on what you just said, Linda, is that, you know, in the adult mindfulness world, a lot of adults will set aside, you know, a half hour to practice mindfulness. And the thing is that even if someone practices for a half hour a day, there's 15, let's say you're up for 16 hours, there's 15 and a half hours left of that day. Do I, Gina, want to teach teens to focus on that half hour or those 15 and a half hours? And let me tell you, bringing mindfulness to everything someone is already doing is a really useful way to bring mindfulness into your life moment by moment, because you can bring mindfulness and mindful awareness and some depth to what you're doing as you're doing it, instead of just that automatic pilot that some of us can go on. I mean, all of us, I think sometimes I'll be looking for my glasses and they're on my head already. I mean, it's life, but it's like, hey, I noticed that I got distracted as being mindful too. So, well, I hope that, you know, for me closing out on this is that I hope that you've learned a little bit about us and about the program and what we want to offer. And, you know, it doesn't have to, even if you don't get this program, it doesn't have to be the last time we connect. You know, I am more than happy to connect with people and make my program and my work accessible, because it is important to get out to all youth, not, you know, not just privileged youth. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gina.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, we can keep going. I mean, we realize lots of people have to get going, so if you have to get going.
I just wanted to share that before people signed off. So yeah, Sheila, how can I, yeah.
Wonderful. I've been in and out, kind of my internet was bad. And so I've missed a few pieces, but so you're thinking 6th grade and up. I'm at a K-12 school, and my goal for this year is to just kind of do one thing. And so if I feel like I could adapt this for my elementary and also use it for their parents, do you think that's totally doable?
Yeah, I'll give you a great example, because I also work with young kiddos too. And when I was doing work in private practice recently, and like for walking mindfulness practice. So usually you pick a line and you walk back and forth, just one type of mindfulness practice. But then what I've been doing with younger kids is I do big step, little step. It's almost like Simon Says, because I find the little ones want to keep going, right? Like, and I was like, no, you can take a big step and then a little step, big step, little step. Nope, little step. Like you can play with it, you know, and it's getting crafty and creative. And I feel like a lot of the stuff in here is not something that has to be like, even teens, right? My program can be completely for adults. The concepts in here are things we all need. It's just how do we share them? One of my activities is plant seeds and pull weeds. Well, we can have kids draw flowers, or, you know, another thing I talk about is what's in your backpack. What are the emotions, your feelings in your backpack, and draw them. So it would probably be more art-based and also a lot of more fun movement activities. And Stacy's even, I think you could do some of it with them as well. But so yes, I think you could absolutely well, you know, all of you are in your own profession, have experience in your own way. And so use your own gifts and talents, bringing this to it, adapting it, kind of shaking it around like a ball, like a glitter ball, and throwing it back out there and seeing what happens. I mean, if we're all trying to do things that are helpful to young people. And if we go in with that approach, I think we won't be doing a lot of harm.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Gina was saying, the mindful movement component absolutely can apply for elementary school students. I think, I mean, there might be a couple things that, you know, maybe they need to look up a word, which is great. You know, you're pushing them past their zone of proximal development. And also to speak to Val's question too, I think the cool thing about our program is that it does appeal to all of the different styles of learning. So auditory, tactile, and visual. I'm more of a tactile and visual. I'm not auditory at all. But there, you can get all three of those within the program, you know, because we're not just talking, we're showing, and they're going to be either writing or moving. So I think that's the nice piece of it. And yeah, I love the idea of shaking it up like a glitter ball and just use pieces that work for you. And I mean, getting access to some of this and understanding some of it and benefiting from a few pieces, or like I say in my classes, you might like some of these videos, you might say no thank you to some, but you can, you know, pick and choose after you watch them to rewatch and get more from the ones that you like. So they might just get different things out of different pieces. And same thing with the schools.
It's just nice to have a guide, and I just want to keep things simple, and I want to keep it kind of continuous through all the grades, because in case we aren't in school and parents and, you know, so I'm really excited. Looks good.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you have any more questions, feel free to email me. My email's in the chat area, and you can get it through my website, stressteens.com as well.
Okay.
Thanks for your questions, Sheila and Val. I appreciate the questions. It helps us to share things that we wouldn't otherwise think to share when you ask questions. So thank you.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions from anyone, the stragglers in here?
So was one more question, was the price, is it $1,500 for both pieces?
Yes.
Okay.
And then of the 1,000, the first piece, the 32 lessons are 1,000, and then the movement is 500. And you can buy them piecemeal, but together it's 1,500. And it's for a school year and for one school.
Okay.
Stacy, can you talk a little bit about the movement piece? Is it also video based, where they would watch a video and then copy what you've done, or do you say, you know, do it as we're doing it, we're going to do it together? How does that work?
Yeah, so I have the sample video on Gina's website, and basically what I'm going to be doing through each one of mine is I'm going to be doing the movements with them and talking through them on the video. So they'll see me as I'm talking and explaining.
And her dog Toby.
Oh yeah, so it was so funny. We were thinking through whether I film these at a professional studio, because I have access to a few. And then I did one, I was like, you know, this just doesn't feel right for this program and what we're doing. I feel like it needs to be more personal, like in my living room. So it's now in my living room with my dog, my 12-year-old lab, sleeping on the couch instead.
It's funny, when we were teaching our 4-week, we now have on the 4th session where they can bring their animals to the last class. And it is so enjoyable for us as well as for them to have their pets there. And I think like we had someone who had like a rooster with them, and like it was a rooster or a chicken. I don't know.
We've had a chicken, a bunny, lizard.
Yeah. We've had it did not just end with cats and dogs. It expanded. So, you know, we try to keep it real and human and enjoyable, because also if mindfulness wasn't enjoyable, people wouldn't do it. You know, it's like we try to keep it fun and be light and chill about it. And what you see here is how we teach too. I mean, I don't turn on the, you know, the evil steps mom hat or something when I teach. It's just me. So
I want to share something that's someone who was, I think, with us just emailed me, and she said that she integrates mindfulness into their SEL program at the elementary site in their district, but that their middle school and high school has nothing in place, which I think this, again, fills a gap that I think is wonderful. She said this program can help complete that circle for their district. So I love that. Thank you.
Awesome.
I just want to thank Tracy for bringing me and Stacy for bringing us this opportunity. And it is such a gift to be able to give some of the proceeds back to COSM. I wouldn't have it any other way. So she said to me actually for the movement that I didn't need to give her any proceeds back. And I was like, no, this is why we're doing this work. We want to get it to people who need it and don't necessarily have the access to it. And that's another thing on the website. And what Tracy alluded to is if a school cannot afford it, if you can afford it, please do sign up. But if you cannot afford it, we will work something out with you so that all schools can get this program. And I mean that.
Any other questions? Well, let's close.
Yeah, Maria has a question.
Oh, okay, good.
Well, hi. It's not really a question. It's more to say thank you. This is kind of like my first time doing this. We have a small school where we work with all these Latino community, you know, people of color. And I'm just gonna tell them about it. I'm excited and tell them what I just hear here. And we're gonna try to go to the website with all the, next week when we have the meetings with the teachers and see if we can, you know, adapt it a little bit to our school, because we have kids who come from, you know, they're refugees, so they have different experience, different stress than not just the COVID right now. So, but I really like it, and I've been hearing a lot of people that they like it. I just want to say that hopefully that my community can use it too, and work from there and see if we can use it with them. You know, it's a lot of Latino community there that kids teenagers who comes from different backgrounds, and just trying to find. I've been researching everywhere, trying to find, and this one is kind of like I like it, and I see if we can use it. So that's all I want to say.
And Maria, this will be on the website. So if you want to have someone on your team also watch it, I'll put it up on the top of my website when it's available.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much for attending. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? And I love, like, that Gina and Stacey, you'll kind of be creating this foundation then for school communities, but then it'd be just really cool if COSM in the future, or we work together and we build on this, because again, we have so many experts within our COSM community that we could potentially have like in future years, a more diverse, you know, different educators teaching on what, you know, their expertise is on this, such as our President Tovey, who has an expertise in racial healing allies, and to be able to bring like her content to teens and to school communities. I just think this is just the start of just a wonderful way to support school communities. And so I thank both of you for getting us going on this, and let the creative ideas continue. And so, yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having us, Tracy, and taking the time to do this. It was a great idea.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to click